Hi, I'm Shan Wu with a Undercolor of Law hot take on some of the things we have to watch out for. Number one, detention camps. Been a lot of talk about that. Let's first play a clip from the ancient past with my friend Scott Jennings trying to hold his own against a somewhat combative panel. So take a listen to that.
But it's not a weakness. Donald Trump's presentation of what he's proposing in that report is all
ask
illegal.
The voters, Scott.
It's been struck down. It's been struck down by the courts, including the Supreme Court.
But it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter to him. So the Democrats, I'd rather be on the right side of the law than do illegal things to close the border. And by the way, are those policies going to be across the board for all immigration? Or are we just talking about black and brown people
like
coming
he says, it's a starting point of a negotiation.
But Scott, you're being rational.
Yeah.
Do you really think people that are voting in these early states are going to sit down and be like, you know what, this isn't legal?
No, they vote for Trump because they like Trump. Yeah, but this is really illegal, bad stuff, guys.
All right.
Now, Scott there was talking generally about Trump's detention ideas, his border policies. You notice the big emphasis there, right, was he's saying, hey, this could be illegal. Supreme Court struck down certain things. The panel is, the voters like it, and he's not going to do something illegal. He's just talking to the voters. Well, Trump's won, and now he will be looking to do all of these things. Let's talk in particular about detention camps. So how do we know this is not just talk? Well, there are a couple of clues here besides the fact that he's promised to do this and that the people behind him, like Stephen Miller, really want this kind of massive deportation to occur. And in order for massive deportation to occur, you can't just snap your fingers and have people get deported. They have to be rounded up, arrested, put someplace while you process the deportation. That requires detention camps. Got to put a lot of people someplace. Can't just stream them over the border. Now, how do we know people really think this is going to happen? How do we know that they're preparing for it? Well, there's been some reporting on it. CNN's reported about that. And there's some other interesting, disturbing indicators. So, for example, the stock market. The Daily Beast reports, as have other outlets, that the stocks for private prisons are going up. They are anticipating more business for themselves. Now, you might think the stock market is a so-so indicator because it's kind of like gambling. And you might also think, oh, maybe it's a really great indicator because so many of the gambling sites were favoring Trump winning the election. Little distinction here for us, which is the gambling sites can easily be skewed just by one or two people placing massive bets that skews the odds. Stock market's pretty different. Stock market is much more of a true free capitalism environment. And so you can watch who's planning to do what and what the economy is thinking about certain businesses like private prisons, because the whole prison industry is very privatized. So how would this get accomplished? We know that people like Trump's idea. His people have been advocating it for a long time. Many voters appear to be very upset about there being too many illegal immigrants in the country. So how does this get done? Well, one way that Trump can do it, well, let's talk about not such a great way to do it. So you notice that the Texas AG, Ken Paxton, already tried raiding people illegally. He can't do that on a national scale. He targeted Latino activists. We'll talk about that in a sec. It gives us a clue, definitely, as to the kinds of people that are going to get targeted. But how could Trump do this nationally? There is a law you may have heard of called the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. And that is essentially a wartime authority that allows the president to detain or deport natives and citizens of an enemy nation. These people can be targeted without a hearing, just based on their country of birth or citizenship. Now, obviously the idea was to prevent foreign espionage or sabotage, like a fifth column behind the scenes trying to work for their country. It was wielded against people who had done nothing wrong. It's a very overbroad authority, and many scholars have said it should have been repealed. Well, it's not going to get repealed now. So let's take a look at how it's been used in the past. It's been invoked 3 times during major actual conflicts, the War of 1812, World War I, and World War II. So in World War II, in particular, you may remember what happened with Japanese Americans and also German Americans. It was used for that purpose. Now, the critical legal element here, which is going to be what the fight will be eventually, is this idea of you need a declaration of war. This goes to the president's executive power as commander-in-chief, so he gets to determine who the country is at war with. So you really need an invasion of some kind or a declaration of war by Congress. The question is going to be, what is the definition of war? Now, you notice we may have been chalking this up to just sort of hyperbole, appealing to the Trump base. Constant talk about an invasion, right? For years now. So that tells us what they're thinking of, and it lays the groundwork for talking about immigrants, migration, as an actual invasion. That's the direction it's going to go in. It doesn't stop with just immigration. After all, even in the horrible Nazi Holocaust, the very first concentration camp, Dachau, didn't start as just a place to put Jewish people. It started as an area for political prisoners. No particular rhyme or reason to that order. You can flip it. So you could start with detention camps for illegal, criminal migrants. Then you could broaden that to just migrants generally, because we have to put people someplace while we figure out their status. You've got that system set up. Pretty soon, it's like, oh, dangerous activists. We got to uphold them until we can figure out what's happening because they might have some foreign ties. All that stuff can just be made up out of whole cloth because the idea is we're going to declare that we're at war. We're going to declare there's an invasion, and we got to do something while we sort of figure that out. Now, what can be done about that? There are obvious legal problems with using that act. The Fifth Amendment protects us against being discriminated on the basis of classifications such as race or ancestry. It infringes on fundamental rights, so there can be actions taken against that. It's also the idea of you can't be detained indefinitely under our system. So you could be detained indefinitely here while they're trying to figure things out. So those are 2 areas that it can be attacked with, and of course needs to be attacked through the court. Now, in a normal situation, you might expect the Justice Department to take action there, but it's certainly not going to do that under a Trump Justice Department. They'll be the ones justifying all of that. The current Justice Department has not even done that much either. For example, to go back to what I talked about with the Texas AG, Ken Paxton, when he raided Latino activists, saying that, oh, there might be some illegal voter suppression, bunch of nonsense. As far as I know, DOJ hasn't done anything with that yet. I'm not sure if they've opened up an investigation. There were multiple state attorney generals who asked the Justice Department, as well as civil rights groups, to open such an investigation into what the Texas AG had done. Obviously, it's very little time left to do anything with that, and Trump's Attorney General isn't going to do anything about it. But pressure coming from the states is helpful. It brings sunlight onto the issue. And so that's something we can do, which is to pay attention to this, talk to our state representatives, congressional representatives, talk to the state attorney generals, keep an eye on this kind of thing to push about what's legal and what's illegal. Even with a Trump Justice Department, make them do things in the sunlight, make them refuse to do that, make them go silent on it, but make them react to the objections being put in place. How do we know what to object to? We have to educate ourselves. We have to listen to what's going on. This general concept of deportations, drill down on a little bit when you hear about that too, because most people would say, yeah, if someone's here illegally, much less they commit crimes here, they should be deported. The danger to watch for is how overbroad that can be. In U.S. history, the Chinese were part of the Exclusion Act, which is really the only prior instance of a law being just based on your ancestry or where you come from. That law is considered to be a really shameful chapter in U.S. history, but we have to be aware how that can be used in a much broader context, because honestly, it's a very short step from having a category like criminal migrants to just migrants to just possibly suspicious activists to simply political prisoner enemies. So watch out for that. Thanks for watching. I think this is a more important time than ever that we have alternatives to mainstream media like this one. We need to talk to each other. So please subscribe. Let's follow me on Twitter or whatever other platforms I may go to and where you may go to. Let me know where you are, where to find each other to talk. And keep those comments and replies coming. It's really helpful to have that kind of interaction. Take care.
In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories, the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.